Hi friends, welcome back to Learning with Mrs. Littlejohn. This has become kind of a funny thing. I wanted to give a shout out to Hanetti and Brian and to the Hughes kids and Grady and Reeve. I've heard that you guys are watching the videos, and so I just decided to keep on making them, not just for my second grade class, but for you all too. So you may have seen right here already I have my friend, this rotten pumpkin, back for its second appearance because I can't get this thing off my mind. It's just too cool when I look at it. It's just an amazing little piece of nature, I think. This little ghost pumpkin that's been hollowed out and just has its shell left, its sturdy shell that protected its insides when it was growing, and now that it's sustained the winter, that shell is still there, but the rest of it's all gone. It's just fascinating to me. But I thought it was the perfect way for us to talk about adjectives today. And I know that a lot of this stuff you guys have already learned, but it's good to review it. And while we're on quarantine, it's kind of nice to kind of practice things that you're already familiar with. And so I'm going to go ahead and review adjectives today, and we're going to read a poem by Shel Silverstein. This is another book from my own childhood. And you can see that this is an old, worn-out copy of a book. My mom used to work in a library, and this book was read so much that they decided to pull it out of the library. I mean, the pages are actually coming out of it. But I think it's a great book still. It still has lots of great poems in it, and we're going to use this today to read a poem called Cynthia Sylvia Stout Would Not Take the Garbage Out, to talk about adjectives. But an adjective, just to get down to the basics, is the adjective tells us about a noun. And to me, adjectives are my favorite part of grammar. It's where the juicy fun of using words comes into play and the real interesting stuff comes out. Because when we talk about nouns, which you know, you've heard this a million times, but it's important to review. A noun is a person, place, thing, or animal. And so we could say, I have a dog. But when we describe the dog, that's what makes it really interesting. I have a cute dog. I have a silly dog. I have a funny dog. I have a playful dog. I have a snarly dog. And so all of those words all of a sudden give our dog or whatever it is a little bit of personality. We're going to describe this pumpkin today. And I'm going to do my best because there are some things that I can't do. I'm not going to taste this thing. No, thank you. I know that you guys would like to see that, but I'm not going to taste it. But adjectives tell us about nouns, what size they are, what color they are, how many of something there is, how does it look, what does it taste like, how does it feel, what's the shape, how does it behave, and what are the feelings that you might have about it, or what are the feelings that it has. Is it a mad pumpkin? I don't know, but we're going to take some guesses. So the first thing is we're going to look at the size. What is the size of this pumpkin? Well, when I started thinking about that, I went, this isn't a big pumpkin, but it's not a small pumpkin either. It's a medium-sized pumpkin. And when we bought it, I know that it was about a 7-pound pumpkin. And I'm going to pull this a little bit closer, so I might not be in it so much, but I want you to be able to see the pumpkin and see the chart. So it was 7 pounds. What color is this pumpkin? This is an amazing looking pumpkin. It's got some tan. It's kind of yellow. It's a little bit greenish. You can see the green moss or green mildew on it. If I turn it around, I don't want to touch it too much because last night it sat in the rain and got a little bit wet. If I turn it, look at that. It's actually black. It's got a lot of colors in here. I'm gonna write brown. I'm gonna write it sideways because I want it to be there. It's got all kinds of colors on it. How many of these pumpkins are there? Well, we could look at just how many pumpkins there are, and there's one. But when we look at other parts of it, we can see that it has hundreds of blisters on it. We can see that it has lots of holes on it. We could count the holes if we wanted to. So we could use that number of how many to talk about more than just how many pumpkins there are. because there are all kinds of things that we could describe with numbers on here. How many colors there are. Like we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 colors that we named, and there's still more. I still see more. I still see a little orangish on there and stuff. Excuse me. How does it look? This is the part where it gets truly interesting, in my opinion. It looks blistered. It looks bumpy. It looks moldy. It looks rotten. It looks old. It looks gross. It looks holy. Don't you think all those words describe it? And I bet you're even thinking of more words that describe it too, which I love that you're at home thinking about this too. I wish we were together because I would put your words up there as well. Come on. Sorry, Fred's over here walking around. How does it taste? This is the part that I'm not willing to do. But if I were to imagine how it tasted, I would think that it would taste a little bit like dirt. But I don't want to use the word dirt to describe what it tastes like, because if I were describing this to an alien and I said it tastes like dirt, the alien would say, "What's dirt?" I can say it tastes earthy. Earthy is just that smell that you get outside right after the rain comes. And you smell that fresh smell come up from the ground, especially in summertime after it hasn't rained for a while. What else could it probably taste like? Probably tastes moldy. Don't you think it would taste moldy? And I think that I can even pull this word gross or yucky. I'm gonna say yucky. I think it would taste yucky. I don't actually have to taste this, right, to imagine what it would taste like. But I don't think I would enjoy it. So all of these are adjectives so far. How does it feel? I think it feels bumpy. And I hate to say it, friends, it feels fuzzy. I'm gonna have to wash my hands after I do this. As soon as I turn off my camera, it feels smooth. When I touch this part right here, I don't know if you can see that. See how it doesn't have any blisters or anything on it right there? When I touch that, it feels very smooth. And it also, it feels stiff. It's hard. So I'm gonna say hard, stiff. The next part we have is, what shape is this thing? And I had a hard time thinking about a shape for this. It's kind of has a square look almost to it. Here, you can't see that real well. I'm gonna try to adjust my camera a little bit so you can see it a little bit better. Aha, there we go. That's much better. So it's kind of roundish. Wouldn't you think? Yeah, I think that describes it well enough. It's roundish. It has round edges. It's not a square, it's not a rectangle, it's not a triangle, it's round-ish. But it's not a perfect circle either, is it? Or an oval. And how does it behave? Well, what is it doing there? How does it behave? It is still. And it is calm. It is not rolling around or doing anything exceptional. And feelings. I don't know what its feelings are. But when I look at this rotten pumpkin, I might think it's sad. It's sad because it's all done. My feelings about it are that it is interesting. So I'm going to write that. I'm interested. All right, so those are the basics for the adjectives for that one, that particular pumpkin. And I think that probably at this point you have a good idea of what an adjective is. And a good reminder. Sorry, I'm trying to fix my camera again so you can see me a little more. Oh, of course, it's going to be persnickety for me. All right, here we go. So now I'm going to get to the story. The poem. I love this poem. Sarah Cynthia Sylvia Stout would not take the garbage out. So this poem is just on one page of this book. Once again, this is one of those books that when I was a kid, you could not get a hold of it in the library. You had to put it on hold and wait for weeks and weeks and weeks. And it's just these 2 pages right here. And there's the illustration. There's Sarah right there. And then this right here is all the garbage that she wouldn't take out. Sarah Cynthia Sylvia Stout. Oh, whoops, I forgot to say, we're going to stop every once in a while and point out some of the adjectives in here that help us to understand how absolutely disgusting and nasty it would be to have a house full of garbage. Sarah Cynthia Sylvia Stout would not take the garbage out. She'd scour the pots and scrape the pans, candy the yams and spice the hams. And though her daddy would scream and shout, she simply would not take the garbage out. And so it piled up to the ceilings. Coffee grounds, potato peelings, brown bananas, rotten peas, chunks of sour cottage cheese. It filled the can, it covered the floor, it cracked the window and blocked the door with bacon rinds, chicken bones, drippy ends of ice cream cones, prune pits, peach pits, orange peel, gloppy glumps of cold oatmeal, pizza crusts and withered greens, soggy beans and tangerines, crusts of black burned buttered toast, gristly bits of beefy roasts. The garbage rolled on down the hall. It raised the roof. It broke the wall. Greasy napkins, cookie crumbs, globs of gooey bubble gum, cellophane from green bologna, rubbery bubbly macaroni, peanut butter, caked and dry, curdled milk and crusts of pie, moldy melons, dried up mustard, eggshells mixed with lemon, custard, cold French fries, and rancid meat, yellow lumps of cream of wheat. At last the garbage reached so high that finally it touched the sky, and all the neighbors moved away, and none of her friends would come to play. And finally Sarah Cynthia Stout said, "Okay, I'll take the garbage out." But then, of course, it was too late. The garbage reached across the state from New York to the Golden Gate, and there in garbage she did hate. Poor Sarah met an awful fate that I cannot right now relate because the hour is much too late. But children, remember Sarah Stout and always take the garbage out. So I'm thinking that we could play a quick game with this. I'm going to read this poem again. And every time you hear an adjective, I want you to sit up. And if you're up, I want you to sit down when you hear an adjective. And I'll go ahead and put my thumb up or down, or I'll try to do that for you too. So Sarah Cynthia Sylvia Stout. Remember, you're going to stand up when you hear an adjective, and the next one you're going to sit down. Sarah Cynthia Sylvia Stout would not take the garbage out. She'd scour the pots and scrape the pans, candy the yams and spice the hams, and though her daddy would scream and shout, she simply would not take the garbage out. And so it piled up to the ceilings, coffee grounds, potato peelings, brown bananas, rotten peas, chunks of sour cottage cheese. It filled the can, it covered the floor, it cracked the window and blocked the door with bacon rinds and chicken bones, drippy ends of ice cream cones, prune pits, peach pits, orange peel, gloppy glumps of cold oatmeal, pizza crusts and withered greens, soggy beans and tangerines, crusts of black burned buttered toast, gristly bits of beefy roasts. The garbage rolled on down the hall. It raised the roof. It broke the wall. Greasy napkins, cookie crumbs, globs of gooey bubble gum, cellophane from green bologna, rubbery blubbery macaroni, peanut buttered, caked and dried, curdled milk and crusts of pie, moldy melons, dried up mustard, eggshells mixed with lemon custard, cold French fries and rancid meat, yellow lumps of cream of wheat. At last the garbage reached so high that finally it touched the sky. All the neighbors moved away, none of her friends would come to play, and finally Sarah Cynthia Stout said, "Okay, I'll take the garbage out." But then of course it was too late. The garbage reached across the state, from New York to the Golden Gate, and there in garbage she did hate. I'd say she hated the garbage, so that would be an adjective. Poor Sarah met an awful fate. A fate is something that happens to you, so something bad happened that I cannot right now relate. That's the author telling you that they can't tell you what happened to her. But children, remember Sarah Stout, and always take the garbage out. So today I have included underneath or in the description box, because I have some other people asking for the worksheets too. I've just included that in the description box of this YouTube video. So hopefully you enjoyed that. And don't forget, if your parents ask you, take the garbage out. Till next time, I love you. Bye guys.